Welcome to the Start of the Year podcast. Today we have on Meghan, not the stallion, not trainer. Friend Meghan here at Radiant Church. She does an excellent job being very nurturing and open and helping and taking care of everybody in the friend group. So Meghan, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of bird's eye view, big picture.
Yeah. So right now I teach 5th grade, so I'm a teacher. I grew up in the Kansas City area. So I graduated from a school called Baser Linwood. So not quite Kansas City, but I always say I'm from Kansas City because small town, no one really knows where Baser is. But that's actually where I'm from. So native to the area. I went to Washburn University in Topeka for college. So I left the area for a little bit. But now I'm back, found Radiant Church, and so I teach 5th grade right now, like I said. So my kids are around 10 to 11, which for me is the perfect age because, I'm a very sarcastic person. So I like that my kids and I can. So I like that my kids and I can banter with each other. So so that's my professional life. Is I teach 5th grade. Right now I'm on summer break though, so I don't have to work now, which is awesome. But here at the church, I volunteer on the worship team. So what that looks like is I do vocals for like Sunday morning services about once a month. I lead Wednesday night prayer like once a month. And then I've recently started volunteering with the youth worship, which fits because I'm a teacher. But so that's kind of what my volunteer role here at the church looks like is I'm a worship leader. And so that's kind of just what I do.
And how long have you been teaching 5th grade for?
So I graduated with my bachelor's in December of 2023. So I graduated high school in 2020. So I actually got my master's. Gonna get my master's soon, but not right now. I got my bachelor's in 3.5 years. So this was my first full year teaching, but I had a half semester on at the end of the spring of 2024. So I did teach 5th grade that semester. So technically I've been teaching for 1.5 years now, but I only have 1 full year under my belt, especially in this school that I'm at now.
Gotcha. Okay. And so jumping right from big picture, right? Surface level, tell us about yourself. I'm going to dive right into the middle because I know that you can handle it. I don't know people. You're like, I'm prepped. I'm ready to go. You come prepped for school every day with the stories.
I lesson plan every day. I yap for a living.
I trust I don't need to ease you in as much as some people. Right. But tell us a little bit about your testimony, how you came to know Christ, what the things were before that moment and during and after, and what that looks like in your life today.
Right. Okay, so growing up, I had a family where it was just my mom, my brother, and my dad and I. Mm-hmm. So it was us 4. My brother is about 3 years older than me. So when we both got to high school, I was a freshman, he was a senior. That was kind of our age gap. My brother and I were really close growing up. I mean, obviously we went through the growing pains that every teenage sister and brother go through. But I loved having my brother around. And we grew up going to church. My mom's family is pretty much all Catholic, and my dad's family is predominantly Catholic as well. So we would grow up, and I can remember going to Catholic Mass every Sunday. So we'd wake up, go to the same church that my grandparents would go to, Nana and Papa, my mom's parents. But so I can kind of remember throughout my childhood just kind of going through the motions. And all right, Sunday was Mass day. We'd wake up, we'd go to Sunday Mass. My parents put me in like Sunday school and like catechism, and I got confirmed in the Catholic Church and the whole shebang. But throughout my childhood, I kind of just felt like I was going through the motions of like, okay, I was here because my parents want me to be here. I don't even think I owned a Bible. I don't think I picked up a Bible outside of Sunday school, and I don't think I spent time with the Lord outside of Catholic Mass and just going through just what any Christian does on a Sunday. Like it wasn't, that was my time with the Lord, not like for like the Monday morning faith. Like I didn't have that. It was very much so just a Sunday thing. So yeah, throughout my childhood, we would go to Mass every Sunday. And so like I knew the Lord growing up, but I don't think my faith was really my own yet at that point. And then fast forward.
It's okay. Construction going on, expanding the church. So that's why we have the sound canceling.
Right. Okay. So, and then at that point, fast forward to around the end of my freshman year of high school. So at that point, my brother was a senior, I was a freshman. We had lived in the same house probably for as long as I can remember. My parents built the house that me and my brother grew up in. I think we moved there when I was in like kindergarten or first grade. Then my parents, at the end of my brother's senior year and my freshman year, dropped the ball that they were going to get divorced. So I think from the outside looking in, everybody at the time was very shocked at that. And I think I was too, in the sense of like, the word divorce was very scary, because the word divorce didn't just mean that my parents were separating. The house would get sold. We'd move out. My brother was going off to college. There's a lot of factors other than just the divorce itself. And you know me, I'm a big planning person. I love to plan and I love to know what's happening next. And with that word, there was just a whole bunch of just unknowns in my life at that point. And so it was, what would that would have been 2017 that they told me they were getting divorced, because my freshman year was 2016, 2017, because that's when my brother graduated. So they told us they were getting divorced. And like I said, from the outside looking in, I still to this day get people that are like, so why did your parents get divorced? Like, that was so out of the blue to all of us. And I think looking back on it, we were all very good at playing the part. Like, that we didn't let other people know that there was something internal tension going on. And like, I want to preface this with, there was never a point in my childhood where I didn't know that my parents loved me, that my brother and I were not taken care of, supported. Like, my parents were awesome at making us feel loved and feel supported and showing up for us. And I always was provided for. There was just that dynamic with the both of them that wasn't working. And in turn, that caused a lot of tension in the home. And so on paper, their marriage was over. The end of my freshman year, beginning of sophomore year was when everything was finalized. But I think internally, their marriage was probably over a couple years before that. And looking back on it, I can kind of see that's when they stopped acting a certain way. And like, when things got more tension filled and we stopped spending more time together as a family. And my brother and I were just very independent while also still being taken care of. Like, my parents loved us and everything. Like, it was just very dysfunctional in a way. I have great memories with both my parents throughout middle school and high school separately, but the time spent, the four of us as a family, didn't feel not tension filled anymore. And I think after they got divorced, looking back on it, that was the best thing that could have happened. Like, now divorce is not a scary word for me, because that was when I saw both of them start to heal. And now today they're both remarried to wonderful people, and I love both my step-parents. And like, I see how much happier they are now, but looking back on it at the time, it was terrifying. Like, you're a 14, 15-year-old kid. My brother was going off to college, so that meant I was the kid that was taking the majority of now you're living with divorced parents. So that was terrifying. And I didn't really have the coping mechanisms and like the outlets to fall back on of, okay, how do I now handle this emotionally? How do I navigate these feelings? And selling my childhood home, my mom and I moved into an apartment. My dad moved into my grandparents' house. Around the same time, my dad's dad, my grandfather, died. And he was originally moving back in with his parents another bonus was like, he could help with my grandpa. And then my grandpa passed away, so his kind of role in that changed, and where he was really being there for his mom in the situation. So it just felt like a lot of things at that point in all of our lives were kind of just like crumbling from underneath us, if that makes sense. And for a long time after that, I really, really felt angry, because we stopped going to church at that point once my parents separated, because the Catholic Church doesn't love divorce. So we didn't really feel welcomed there anymore. But the thing is that we didn't then go somewhere else. There was kind of just this lull that I wasn't going to church at all. And like, in my childhood, I didn't spend any personal time with the Lord. My time with the Lord was at Mass. So if I wasn't going to Mass, I wasn't spending any time with the Lord. And also,
At what age was this at?
so at the very, very end of my freshman year was when they told me they were getting divorced. Okay. So that was, I was 14 because I was turning 15 that summer because I'm really young for my grade. Mm-hmm. So I was 14 turning 15 when all of this kind of like started. So then throughout all this same time, like through middle school, I was involved in a Christian youth group called Young Life. My dad was a leader. I would go throughout middle school. And so I guess that was time that I spent with the Lord outside of church. But it was very like, I'm there, I'm involved. But then when I leave, it's like, you don't apply any of the things that they're talking about. Because I just don't think I knew how to. Like, I wasn't being intentional about my faith and everything. It was just going through the motions. So after they got divorced, my dad still was leading at Young Life, but my brother was graduated at this point. But we weren't going to church. I was really angry. Looking back on it, if you would have asked me what I was angry about or who I was angry at, I don't think I would have been able to tell you. I know I wasn't angry at my parents because I was happy for them because I could see that they were both starting to heal. And I loved both of them separately, but I knew that they weren't right together. So I wasn't angry at my parents. And the only thing that I can pinpoint is that I was angry at God. Like, I was just like, why is my life falling apart? Why did this happen when my brother's leaving for college? So where I'm the kid that has to bear all of this weight. Why are we selling my childhood home? Like, why? All I could keep asking myself and the Lord was like, why did you let this happen to me? I've been faithful. I've gone to church every Sunday because at that point in my life, I thought if I go to church every Sunday,
check the box.
Like, I'm good. I did what I was supposed to do. And I couldn't understand that, like, sometimes bad things happen to good people. And that's not something that kind of clicked in my brain at that point in time. So I was just a very angry soul at that point. I think both my parents saw it, but neither of them really confronted me about it. But I think they could see it behind the mask. So at that point, I wasn't going to Young Life anymore. We weren't going to church anymore. My mom and I were living in an apartment. My dad was living with my grandma. And my brother was at college, and we were all kind of just like finding our new normal. And so I started my sophomore year of high school, and not only was like everything in my personal life kind of just crumbling and falling apart, but you also have to think about how when I went back to school, I had to face all of the questions about like, so why'd you got like your parents got divorced? Like, you sold your house? Like, where do you live now? And it wasn't really common for anybody in my social circle to live in an apartment. So it was like, yeah, you all live in houses now, but like my mom and I are in an apartment, and just the dynamic was so different. And my freshman year, I got into a relationship with a senior. So I was the stereotypical freshman dating a senior. But
I know a lot about you. I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
You didn't know that?
No.
You know, when I was a freshman, I dated a senior.
What's his name?
What?
What's his name?
Joe. He's a great guy.
Sleepy Joe. There you go.
Stop it.
Joe's
Cut that out.
Cut that part out. Okay.
But yeah, no, I got into a relationship with a senior, and so the people that I was surrounding myself with my freshman year, before all of this happened, like, I was cutting off my friends in my grade. I was surrounding myself mainly with like upperclassmen and people that were going to graduate, but I wasn't thinking about the fact where I'm going to come back next year and these people aren't going to be here.
Yeah.
Which, side note, my brother was not happy about, because the one thing he told me that when I entered high school was, do not infiltrate my circle. And what did I do?
Exactly that.
Exactly that. So that was something that I probably shouldn't have done. But I think it worked out for the better, because that group of people my freshman year did teach me a lot. But then flash forward to my sophomore year, where I'm coming in, my personal life is completely different. My brother's gone. All my upperclassmen friends are gone. And now I'm basically starting from ground zero, and while also internalizing everything. And that's at the point in my life where I think a lot of my anxiety started, of just like growing up. I talked about earlier how from the outside looking in, we were all very good at like making it look like there was like no tension, because it's not something we talked about. Like, it was just, we would just leave and everything would be normal, and like we'd be out and about and we'd be a perfect family. And when in the reality behind closed doors, we wouldn't exactly be acting the way we were out in public. So I think a lot of my like perfectionist tendencies come from no longer having that avenue of like, okay, I'm the perfect Christian daughter. We go to mass every Sunday. I'm a part of a youth group and I get straight A's and I'm on the honor roll and like the whole shebang, like inquire everything. I didn't necessarily have that avenue of like perfectionist anymore because I mean, everybody knew that my family was crumbling. I was rebuilding what I thought.
Couldn't keep up that front anymore.
I couldn't keep up that front anymore. So I think without realizing it, I kind of shifted my thought process of, okay, if that can't be perfect, then something else in my life, I have to put all my energy toward this. And for a long time, this was kind of like, it slowly brewed, but I would start to be obsessed with how I looked and how I acted and how I presented myself to others. And I was basing more of my self-worth in how others perceived me versus what my identity was in the Lord and in my relationship with the Lord. Because I didn't have a relationship with the Lord at that point, if you want me to be completely honest. Like, it wasn't something that even crossed my mind, was to take all of these struggles to God. So I developed a really disordered way of eating, and like I wasn't fueling my body properly. I will say I lost a lot of weight. I was very tiny at this point compared to what I think my like normal weight is now. Yeah. It just wasn't healthy and it wasn't sustainable. It just wasn't how I was supposed to be living in a healthy lifestyle. And so I was just obsessed with how people would perceive me, what kind of friend I was, what I could offer to other people, like how I looked, how guys saw me. And I think in a lot of my relationships at that point in time, it was more about me being the perfect friend and the perfect human and the perfect daughter and the perfect fill in the blank, rather than me just kind of existing and being a kid. So while all of this was happening, we still weren't going to church at that point in time, but my brother would still come back on the weekends from college because he went to the University of Central Missouri, which is like an hour-ish from Kansas City. And we got invited to go to a local church called Grace Point. It was a Church of the Nazarene. And it was so crazy because I didn't realize it, but the pastor at the time was actually my personal finance teacher. So he would teach at the school during the week, and then he would go pastor the church on the weekends. So like I'd see Mr. O in personal finance class 2 to 3 times a week, and then we'd go to church with him at Grace Point on the weekends. And at that point in my life, I still didn't have a relationship, like a close personal relationship with the Lord, I would say, at all, really. Again, I was just checking the box, showing up to church. It was kind of weird because like both my parents would still go to church at the same place to just kind of provide a little bit of normalcy for my brother and I. So like we would have time where all 4 of us were there, but it was still like, okay, you're divorced. This is like, I can still sense a little bit of tension here. But at that point, we had been going to Grace Point for a while. I can't remember how long, but it was at least a couple months at that point. And my mom went up to the worship leader and was like, listen, my daughter loves music, is great at singing, she's in choir at school, like she wants to audition. And I'm standing there like, I want to audition? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because
voluntold.
Yeah, voluntold. Which, looking back, that was probably the best thing that could have happened for me at that point, but it didn't happen the way that it should have. In the fact that first of all, I was only 15, 16 at the time. I was very clueless into what the world of like more contemporary modern worship looked like because I grew up Catholic, like Catholicism and the hymns and psalms, and it's very different from contemporary modern worship. And it's not, neither one of them is correct. They're just different. And so I was coming in very clueless, for one. But for another thing, I was also in no position to lead at all because I had no relationship with the Lord. So for me to, yes, I auditioned. Like I ended up auditioning, getting on the worship team. I started leading on Sundays, but like my heart posture was not correct at all. Like I was preparing these songs and like getting up and leading. I had a microphone in my hands. Like, again, perfectionism, outside looking in, I had it all together. But like I had no business being on that stage and leading, because what foundation was I leading from? Like what personal foundation with the Lord was I then stepping up to be the example for people?
It was a performance, not a
right,
worship.
it was completely performance, not worship at all. Like I was just playing a part at that point, which is not how it should have been at all. But the silver lining of that, looking back, was yes, I had no business being up there, but I do think in a way that the Lord used that church and those people that I was then surrounding myself. That's when I really started to like find myself again. And like, again, I had no business being up there, but in a way the Lord was using that to kind of start to heal me. So I was at that point in my life, like finishing high school. Things were like starting to look up again. Like I got close personal relationships with kids my age back again. I was leading on Sundays, and I started going back to Young Life here and there. My dad and I would go out to dinner once a week. We would always go to my favorite Chinese restaurant, China Dragon in Baser, Kansas. Shout out to them. But my dad and I had a really strong relationship building about like what our new normal was. My mom and I were figuring out what our new normal was. Like I felt like things were kind of getting leveling out, but I still wasn't really regulated in the fact that I was still obsessed with like how I looked, what I could do for others, rather than just, like I said, being a kid. So then fast forward to senior year of high school. I was graduating. It was 2020, springtime, like still kind of just going through the motions. And I was a senior in 2020, which if you know what that means, it means I was the class that COVID hit with. So I can remember walking out of school for spring break and literally never walking back in. Like I can remember not even looking back and just wanting to go, because I had a trip to Mexico planned with my dad for my senior trip, and that was that. And when that happened, and not just me, but like all of my friends lost the things that we were most excited about, like prom and graduation and my senior choir concert and my senior choir competition season, and just everything that you look forward to at the end of your senior year was just like ripped out from under me completely. And I was circled right back to the same feeling that I felt when my parents got divorced. So the rug was ripped out of me at that point, and now it's ripped out from under me again. And so then I kind of just got into like this cycle of waiting for the next shoe to drop. Like things in my life, in my brain, couldn't be good for a long period of time, because that just meant another shoe was coming to drop and pull the rug out from under me again. So like I graduate high school during COVID. That looked a lot different just because of the nature of the virus and the pandemic and everything. And then I start college, and I obviously was an education major. I chose Washburn University in Topeka because it was close to home. It was like 45 minutes away from Kansas City. But also my mom they knew each other from high school, my stepdad. They kind of rekindled, started dating, and actually got married. And she waited until I graduated high school to move down to Topeka. And the only reason I really kind of found Washburn was because she lives down there, and I was like, oh, I guess there is a college down there. And I drove by it, and I was like, it kind of looks good. So, because I really didn't want a big college, but I didn't want a super small college. So Washburn was a good kind of middle ground of just, there was like 3,000 people. So it was big, but it wasn't small. So I'm in college. Oh, another big thing that I forgot, another just shoe that just dropped out of nowhere is my mom got remarried to my stepdad my senior year of college before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then he got diagnosed with cancer. He went to the dentist and they saw a little spot on the back of his tongue. And that day we're like, we're making you an appointment with an oral surgeon, drive there right now. And they ended up diagnosing him with T2 squamous cell carcinoma. So what they ended up doing was if you meet my stepdad today, I can't remember if it's this side or this side, but he has a giant scar like right there. And they actually took out his lymph node and like cut everything out. And that doesn't actually have feeling right here. Wow. But again, he's fully cured in remission today. So praise God for that. But that's just another example in my life where I was looking at, okay, my mom got a sense of normalcy. She found her person that she's healing and being happy with. And again, something bad happened. Like, why can't things just like be good? And why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? And so, sorry to jump around a little bit. I completely forgot about that. But that was a big thing too. So we were going through that with COVID and graduating and me going to college and just everything around that time. Our church closed down because it was a smaller church during COVID and it just couldn't stay afloat anymore. So we were going to a new church and I was on a new worship team at a different church. So it was like all of these things. Again, I felt the same way that I felt when my parents got divorced, where I'm starting from ground zero again. The same way I felt when I walked into my sophomore year of high school, where it's like, okay, this is my new normal. What do I do about it? Freshman year of college was the same way. Okay, this is my new normal. What do I do about it? So freshman year of college, just tried to figure out what my role was in the normal college experience while also dealing with COVID. And we had found a new church and I was leading worship at that new church, but still I was becoming closer with the Lord, but I was still not going because I wanted to be there. It's because I had an obligation because I was on the worship team. It wasn't I get to lead worship. I get to go to church. I get to worship the Lord. It was like, I'm scheduled for worship. Got to go to church. And when I wasn't scheduled, when I wasn't scheduled, I wouldn't go. I would make the hour drive back from Topeka when I was scheduled on the team, but I wouldn't go to church when I wasn't on. So again, I still had looking back, I still had no business doing that because I wasn't leading from.
Wasn't a part of
I wasn't a part
church.
of the body of Christ. I wasn't doing what you need to do in order to have the foundation to stand on when you're leading other people.
What was the tipping point?
The tipping point in what?
From not being a part, not wanting to changing and going oh no, I'm going to actually be filled.
I'll get there.
Okay. I'll trust the process.
Trust the process. So I'm still going through all of that. And we make the decision. Well, I make the decision with others that were on the worship team at my church. 2 guys in particular that I was really, really close with. And we would serve on the same Sundays. And one of them was really close friends with my dad through Young Life. And the other guy that I met, so it was coworkers with one of the other guys. So basically these 2 guys were coworkers. One of them was really close with my dad. So he was like a second father to me. And then I met the other guy through Brady. So it was Brady and Eric. And the 3 of us made the decision after being at the new church for a while and kind of leading worship there that we wanted to get involved with Young Life again. And if you don't know, Young Life is a Christian youth organization. I kind of mentioned it earlier. There's a middle school sector and a high school sector. It's wildlife and young life. Wildlife's middle school, young life is high school.
This is like a nationwide.
Yeah, it's a global. There's camps in, I wouldn't know the exact number of countries, but like it's a global organization that.
A lot.
A lot. It's a big organization. So we had gotten involved in Young Life again, and we were now introducing live worship and kind of mentoring these kids, and it felt good to be back in Young Life again. And like I don't think I was as angry as I was anymore. I think that throughout all of this, I was slowly, very painfully slowly, learning that sometimes you don't always get to know the why. And like, that's something that you have to be okay with, because like the Lord has a plan, and the Lord like knows the end goal, even if you are like, buddy, what are you doing right now? Like, you just have to trust it. And so I think slowly throughout all of these things, yes, I was still angry. Yes, I was still like, why is this thing after thing after thing happening? And I wasn't truly still in it for having a relationship with the Lord. I was still just kind of playing the part. But really kind of the tipping point for me was it was the summer of 2022, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think it was 2022. I was like 19 at that point in time. And I had been leading Young Life in like the high school portion for that entire school year. And I was planning on going to camp with my high schoolers that summer. And it would be the first time I had been to Young Life camps before, but I hadn't been a leader yet. And so that was going to be the first time that I was going to be a leader. And I was going to be in a cabin with another girl who's a leader and had been to camp before. And then, so how Young Life works is there's a wildlife camp and there's a Young Life camp. So like you have middle schoolers go to camp and Young Life, like high schoolers go to camp. And they can go to the same camps, just they won't go at the same time. So like for one of the camps, like they'll have a session where it's like all middle schoolers coming and then all high schoolers coming. And so it was like 2 weeks before our middle schoolers were scheduled to go to a place called Clearwater Cove, which is a Young Life camp in Lampe, Missouri. It's like Ozarks kind of area, Table Rock, that area over there. And one of the female leaders for our middle school's girls couldn't get off work. Like her time off was previously, I don't remember what happened. It was long enough ago. All I remember is that they needed a female leader, and my area director texted me and was like, I know you've never met these girls. I know you've never been to camp as a leader before, but like, will you do it? And I was a college kid who was a teacher, and I didn't work in the summer, so I had no excuse that I couldn't go, other than it just would have been I didn't want to. And and Brady and Eric, who I lead worship with at church and made the decision to come over to Young Life with, they were going to wildlife camp as well. So it was like, okay, I could go with like them. I wouldn't be like alone. I would know some of the leaders. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. But I didn't realize that I would be the only leader in that cabin. Like I was the only adult in that cabin. So it was one of those things where I got on the bus to go, and it was like, Megan, what are you doing here? Like, what? You are about to be in a cabin with 11 8th grade girls who are going to ask you questions about the Lord and your walk with the Lord and your relationship with the Lord, and you're supposed to lead them, but like what are you doing? And it was through that week. I can remember sitting down that first night where we had all our activities, and we had what we call club. So like Young Life Club is where you like music and dancing and skits, and then you end with a message about like the Gospels. And then afterwards you have what's called cabin time, which is like you bring all the girls back to their cabin and you talk about Are you good?
Sneezing
that
as
was
quietly as
that was
possible.
a really impressive quiet sneeze. So cabin time, you literally bring all the girls back to the cabin and you talk about the message and you go in depth and you talk about the Lord and you have questions and it guides the conversation. And I can remember sitting down that first night and like you all sit in a circle and you go over like what's cabin time. This is a safe space and everything stays in the circle and like the whole mandatory part, like unless I feel like you're in danger, da, 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 da. And I can remember finishing that like whole spiel and then looking down at my sheet of questions and looking up at these 10, 11, 8th grade girls looking at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is real. Like I'm leading these girls and I don't feel like I should be.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it's like, how did I end up here? Like, who trusted me with this? But it circles back to I was really good at making it look like I had everything together and I had everything in line and I had all my ducks in a row. It was one of those like you fake it till you make it scenarios. And it was really through that week where at cabin time after cabin time, I was watching these girls like be on fire for the Lord. And they had all these questions, some of which I had no clue how to answer. But like I was like, okay, let's look at this together. Let's sit and like look in the Word together and figure things out. And there was one night at that camp where I had a couple girls just like break down in tears because one of them, their parents were having struggles at home. The other one was like, I've been starving myself. Like all of these things that it was so eerie almost because every single one of those things were things that I had struggled with. And I had this like epiphany of like, it was almost like the Lord was telling me like, you've asked me why so much. That was my biggest question growing up is why me? Why this? Why now? Why is this happening? And it was almost like that week, it was like, if every single thing that you've been put through, if the only reason was to help these girls, then that's enough. And like, all of a sudden, it was like a switch flipped in my brain of like, okay, I don't understand the why, but I know enough to know that the Lord has a plan and it's gonna be okay. And things are hard, but like we have so much grace with the Lord and so much like redemption and like you're never too far gone and no situation is ever too far gone. So it was that week at camp where I was leading these girls and it was like so many things fell into place where situations I had been in my life really helped steward these girls into really understanding what they were going through. And I can just think back to like if I had had somebody to ask those questions to of like, my parents aren't getting along, they're thinking about getting divorced. How did you handle it? Or I've been starving myself. How like what do like why am I what do I do? And it's like if I had to go through all of that in order to just help these few girls, then that was reason enough. And like that was why the Lord put me through that. And I can remember getting home and again, the switch flipped in my brain to where I had spent so much time in the Word, kind of like preparing myself for these girls to ask me all these questions about the messages and stuff. And it was almost like now I was just so hungry for more knowledge and more like time with the Lord and more personal one-on-one, just time spent with the Lord. And like I was hungry for that. And I saw what that just did to my mental state while I was at camp and spending all this time working on my foundation with the Word and just religion in general, that I can remember coming back and just, it was almost like my entire lifestyle changed to where it was like, again, from the outside looking in, it looked like I was doing all the same things I was doing before. But now it wasn't a show. It was like I was actually actively
Authentic.
participating in the body of Christ and in my word and like mentoring these young lifers, but I was actually like believing it. And like I was actually trusting that the Lord had a plan and that the Lord was good and he's faithful and he is with us always. And there is grace in every situation and there's redemption in every situation. And so that summer I went to Young Life Camp with like my girls that I was with the entire year. And then like the same thing happened where it was like, I felt more connected with the Lord through mentoring these girls and spending time in my word and doing all of these things. And then I got home from that as well. And I was going back to my normal life of worshiping and being scheduled. And it was at that point that I realized, okay, it doesn't feel like I'm just showing up and singing these songs anymore. Like I actually feel like I mean it. And I actually feel like that it wasn't a performance anymore. It was worship. And for the first time in my life, there was that distinction where it was like, I thought that that's what worship felt like, when in reality, when you're truly, your heart posture is aligned with the mindset of, okay, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm not doing this to get on a stage. I'm not doing this so others perceive me as perfect. I'm not doing this for anything other than to serve the Lord. It was like that distinction alone rocked my world. And so I come from the past of like things shaking my true identity and things just going the complete wrong direction from what I wanted them to do. Because I'm the type of person that just every single time wants to plan out everything and wants everything to go in the way that I want it to go. That's why I became a teacher, because I can plan my day for every single minute. To where it was like, now I was coming from the perspective that I can truly say with full authority in my belief that like God has a plan and I need to trust him with that. And bad things are still going to happen. Like that's just life. But now I have a relationship to fall back on with the Lord of like, okay, when bad things happen, you have a place to go where it's like, I can go to him with, okay, this situation sucks, but now I'm spending time in prayer and in the word and really just I have a foundation to stand on. So at that point, I was leading worship at church, but like I actually felt like I was fully immersed in the body of Christ at that point. I started going to church when I wasn't scheduled to sing. I was still involved in Young Life, and I was still in college at this point. I hadn't graduated, and I was at the point where I was ready to almost start student teaching. And again, the next season of my life where it was almost like a cluster of things happened all at once. This was kind of a little bit previous, but like I kind of loop it into this section of like things in my life that were going wrong. I was working at a job in college, and I ended up leaving that job because I had to file a sexual harassment complaint with one of my managers. That's a whole different situation in itself, but I was where like I no longer felt safe at work with this particular authority figure just because of some things that happened that I won't get into. But so I had that whole sexual harassment complaint debacle, had to switch jobs, find a new job in college while also this was all still going on. I was getting ready to student teach and making plans to student teach, and I had a really big falling out with a super close personal family member that I was going to live with while I was student teaching, and then I had to switch gears and stay with a different family member and figure, there was a while where I was like, I don't know where I'm going to live while I student teach. So those two things happened. And then I can remember my grandfather dying, right? My mom's dad, so Papa. My grandfather dying April before I graduated. So I graduated in December of 23 and he died in April of 22. So it was again all of these things. Oh, and I was no longer leading worship at the church that I was at because there was a pastoral switch and the mission of the church was no longer going in the direction that I felt like the Lord was calling me in. So I was no longer leading worship with the same group of people that I've been leading worship since I was 14, these two guys, Brady and Eric. So it was like I had no church family anymore. I was navigating a new job because of this traumatic experience that I went through. My grandfather died, and it was like this perfect storm of things again, where it was like, okay, Lord, the rug was pulled out. What do I do? But the difference was this time was that every single time in my life where I had felt like this previously, where it was like, it seemed like this cluster of things was just happening and I didn't know how to deal with it. I had it felt like I had support. And I had an avenue to take it to the Lord and be like, okay, these things suck. Like, I hate this. But it was almost like I could see like the gratitude in it all of like, okay, I'm not going to ask the same like, why anymore. Like, I know there's a plan. I know there's a purpose and it's going to work out for the better. I just need to put my head down, pray, be in the word, like really take it to the Lord and be like, I know there's a plan for all of this. I'm going to get through it. And so I end up finding a new job. I ended up starting to teach preschool, which was better for my degree anyways than working at a random company that had nothing to do with children. So I was teaching preschool. I got it worked out to where I was actually going to live with my stepdad's mom. While I was student teaching, she opened up her home to me, which was so sweet of her. I really grew closer to like my grandma and my mom through Papa dying, and things again were starting to level out, normal. I was about to graduate college. I was student teaching. I was figuring out, okay, I'm about to graduate, and I am now getting a job and settling down, like really starting to put down roots somewhere because I'm not a college kid anymore. And at this point, I still wasn't going to, I was in a point of my life where I wasn't going to church again because of everything that happened with the old church and the pastoral switch. And there was just a lot of like, honestly, church hurt there. And that phrase is so overused, but like I was not ready to go find another church again because I was so scared of the same thing happening where it was like things were so good and then the pastor switch and everything was just so toxic that I just had to leave. And I ended up signing a lease with a friend in January of that year. And I had moved in and I really felt the tug on my heart of like, okay, you're not going to church, but you're still involved in Young Life. And like, I still had, like, I was spending time in my word. I had a relationship with the Lord. I just wasn't going to church, which at least I was still spending time with the Lord on my own at that point. And I really felt the Lord be like, okay, you've had your season of really just navigating your faith on your own with me and with Young Life. But like, I really want you to get involved into a local church again. And so I literally was on Google Maps in my apartment and I was like, church, and I hit search. And what do you know? Radiant Church popped up and it was like less than 1.5 miles away from my apartment. And the crazy thing is that I had like searched churches near me before, but like I don't remember Radiant ever popping up, which come to find out when I started going to Radiant, it was my first week at Radiant was the second week in the new building.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So I came to Radiant. I remember coming that first week and sitting, like walking in. And you know how when you're like at a new place, you come in and you're like, I'm going to sit in the very back row and I'm just going to like scope it out. Like I'm terrified to be here alone. I'm terrified to look like I don't have people. So I can remember sitting in the parking lot going, okay, just walk in. It's fine. No one's going to know that you don't know anyone here. Like just walk in. It's going to be fine. And I remember going in, sitting down, and I was just sitting and I was like, Lord, if this is where I'm supposed to be, like, if this is the church family for me, if this is where I'm supposed to end up, like, I'll know. Like, I will just know. And I had been at that point kind of going to different churches for a while, for a couple weeks, and like just seeing kind of what I was looking for, what kind of environment I wanted. And when I tell you not a single soul outside of the Welcome Center talked to me, like, I mean that. Like, I would go to these different churches and like they'd be like, if you're new here, go to the Welcome Center. And like I'd go to the Welcome Center and they'd be like, oh my gosh, like, we're so happy to have you. And then radio silence. Like, nobody welcomed me outside of just like the staff. I couldn't find a community. And I can remember sitting at Radiant, and I literally was like, Lord, if this is where I'm supposed to be, I will know. And I was sitting there, and this woman named Marla walked by me. And so Marla, her husband's name is Gerald, and Marla walked by me because she was on her way up to the front to sit with Gerald. And I could see her like pause for a second. And it was one of those situations where I was like, oh no, this woman is about to speak to me and I don't know what's going to happen. Because like, I just want to sit back here, do nothing. Like, I just leave me alone. But she ended up turning around and was like, I haven't seen you before. What's your story? How long have you been going here? And I was like, this is my first week. Like, I've been church shopping for a little bit. I'm from the area.
I haven't heard that before. Church shopping.
Church shopping, yeah, where it's like shopping around, trying to figure out where you want to go. I've been doing that for a little bit, and this is my first time here. And she like thought for a split second, and she was like, well, do you want to come sit with my husband and I? And I was like, almost about to say like, no, I'm good back here. And it was almost like the Lord was like, why not? Like, you've prayed for community. You want people to. You
were sitting there telling me, like, leave me alone.
You've wanted this for so long, so why say no? Like, just take the leap of faith. Say yes. Go sit with her. So I was like, sure. And I got up, and then she started leading me to her seat, and I realized that she and Gerald sit in the second row. And I was like, what? How did I end up here? I'm sitting in the second row next to these two people that I don't know, that just like are now adopting me into their little family. And service that morning was great. That's when I learned that this was the second week in this new building. And after church that day, Marla was like, why don't you come out to lunch with us? Like, we'll buy you lunch. And again, I was like, almost about to say no. And it was like, again, like, why not? Like, just go experience it, talk about the Lord, see what this history of Radiant is, like, if they know and they can tell me anything. And so I remember going to Talk of the Town, I think, the bar and grill, Talk of the Town, I think is where we went. And I remember sitting there and, again, kind of just telling them my testimony and kind of how I ended up at Radiant and kind of what I was looking for in a church. And they were just so sweet. And they were like, well, you can come sit with us next week at church if you want. We're always at the 10:45 service. And I ended up going back the following week. And another thing that I really prayed about when I was looking for a new church was a strong young adult a strong young adult presence. Because that's not something I felt like I had at my previous churches, where it was always like that kind of demographic of the church was always missing. Either always missing or very cliquish and like very like they already have their group. I can't infiltrate it. And I ended up going to Radiant that like second week, and I think it was Dory who went up on stage and they announced their young adult ministry, and they announced like Bold Young Adults and how that was going to start. And I remember Marla looking over at me going like, you talked to us about that. Like, here it is. Like, this is your chance. And throughout my like beginning at Radiant, it was almost like, it was like wink after wink after wink from the Lord of like, you told me that you wanted to know that this was the place for you. And it seemed like everything I had prayed for in a church, like what I wanted in a church family, in a church community, like Radiant was just like a beaming, like beacon of everything that I had prayed for. Strong young adult president. I just said it again, precedent, like strong young adults, like strong leadership, like core values of the church that aligned with mine, and like the direction of the church was going in something that I really feel like I want to be a part of. And people are just friendly and like want to talk to you and know your story and everything. So I feel like throughout all of this, I was very, very close and very, very strong in my foundation with the Lord at this point. But I had never longed to go to church as much as I did when I found Radiant, where it was like, okay, at one point in my life, I was literally just going to church because I had an obligation to be on the worship team. Then it was like, okay, I want to go to church. I want to be a part of this. But the community I was in wasn't super fulfilling. And now it's like, okay, I'm not on the worship team yet because I'm still healing from the years of leading worship when my heart was not in it. Like, I want to take a break from that. I want to get right with the Lord. Like, I want to really come from a place of like, if I'm going to lead worship again, I want it to be right. And I want it to be because I want to serve, not because I want to do a performance. And so I start going to Bold Young Adults and I start meeting person after person after person. And we start, like, I remember meeting you, and I remember meeting like my closest friends now, like Bethany, Mackenzie, and like everybody in our like circle that we have now. And it was the first time in my life where I felt like I had people that were of similar age, similar like life stages to me. And it was like these people have the same values that I do, where we all love the Lord, we love going to church, we like, they all have such beautiful hearts, and like truly everybody at Radiant just is like a beacon of just like positiveness and like love for the Lord. And I can remember feeling for the first time in my life where it was like, I don't care if I never am on a worship team again. Like, I don't care what I serve in this church in any capacity. Like, I don't care. I just want to serve. I just want to be here. I just want to experience the Lord. Like, I just want to be in community. And that was truly something that I had never felt before, because it was always like, oh, Megan's the musical one. She's going to serve on worship. She's going to do all these things and be involved in all this way. And it felt like an obligation rather than me truly serving. So for me to have that mindset switch of like, I truly don't care in what capacity I serve in. I just want to be here. I just want to be in community. I just want to sit and experience the Lord in any way that I can. Where it was like, I truly think I like have grown so much in the past year and a half now, I guess, almost, of me being here at Radiant. Like, it's just been thing after thing where it's like the Lord, I've truly encountered the Lord through like you guys and like the staff here. And I eventually did start serving on the worship team again, but it was so healing and so fulfilling, because it was the first time in my life where I was just serving because I wanted to serve, not because I felt like I had an obligation to put on this show for people. And I really do think it's like, I had started my healing process. I had started my journey with my personal faith before I got to Radiant. But I think I truly was able to step into like I think I was truly able to step into my identity in the Lord, like how I view myself when I came to Radiant, because I just wanted nothing else than to sit and be with the Lord and be surrounded by this community of amazing young adults and amazing people, where it was like something that I had never experienced before and was like truly life-changing. Where like before, when I had the storm of events that would happen and I would have no one to turn to, then I had my relationship with the Lord to turn to eventually. And now it's like, okay, if something were to happen, like I still feel like sometimes I'm in the mindset of like, okay, when's the next shoe gonna drop? Like, things are good, what's gonna happen? And that's something I'm actively working on. But like, I truly can say with full honesty now that like, not only do I have my like relationship and foundation with the Lord to step on, like I have a community of people that have my back And just like the community here at Radiant is unlike no other. And so, I mean, that kind of catches up to where I am at in my life now with everything. I'm still coming here at Radiant. Like it took about 6 or 7 months for me to feel really like the Lord was like, okay, you've served on worship in the past, but it wasn't for the right reasons. But now I still feel like that's where I'm called to be, but for the right reasons now. And because you truly just want to experience worship in an authentic way and just a place of just humbleness. And it's not about perfection or putting on a show or a performance. It's literally just about, okay, I want to be with the Lord. And so yeah, I'm serving on worship. I'm serving on worship at Bold Conference coming up. I'm still teaching 5th grade. I'm teaching 5th grade next year at the same school. So yeah, just everything in my life kind of led up to this season. I feel like in the last like year and a half, 2 years, where it was like, okay, I grew up Catholic, parents got divorced, thing after thing after thing after thing of finding my way and just not really experiencing a personal relationship with the Lord, where I wasn't going to church because somebody else was telling me to, or I had an obligation to fulfill. It's because I just want to be with the Lord, and I just want to just experience community and authentic, just people, just witnessing people be on fire for Jesus. And it's truly like something unlike any other. So that honestly kind of catches up to where I am right now. I still, like I said, I serve here on worship, but I also do still serve with Young Life. Within the last year, I had the opportunity to, with Young Life, honestly, it's been the last 2 years now. We spent a month at a Young Life camp over the summer. We wrote and released an EP, which is like kind of a shorter version of an album. So we released that. It's got like 4 or 5 Christian songs on it that we performed for like a month at camp. And it was like really fulfilling to be able to like come from a place of authenticity, where it was like we were writing and performing these songs, and I was able to authentically like lead others in them, not because I had an obligation to, but because that's just what I felt like I was called to do. So yeah, I feel like that really sums everything up. But I mean, I probably missed things on the way, but
We're up to date.
That's me. That's me today.
I love it.
Yeah.
The purpose what I've learned, the purpose of testimonies is not something that we receive something out of.
Right.
But the sharing opens the door for others to recognize that they're not alone.
Right.
Through those processes. And going through all of your testimony, which was, you probably put the most effort in out of anybody so far, so thank you.
I get paid to yap for a living, so.
You're good at it.
I talk for 8 hours a day.
There you are. Question I have, and then after this, I want to go right to closing because I really want to focus in on this part. There's a girl out there who had just listened to all of your testimony and heard, I struggle with starving myself. I struggle with my parents are getting divorced. I struggle with perfectionism. What would you say to that girl, that woman, to encourage them to pull those, not habits, but those struggles to the Lord versus trying to bottle up and do it all themselves?
Right. I think something that I've learned over the past year and a half of being here at Radiant and really being surrounded in a community where I've been able to like bounce these ideas off of people is that and this is gonna sound so backwards, but you just have to listen to the whole thought before you are truly not enough on your own. Like, and that's something you have to be okay with, because like I'm truly not enough without the Lord. Like, I'm truly never going to be perfect because the Lord didn't call us to be perfect. Like, Jesus wouldn't have had to come die on the cross for us if we were perfect, if there was no sin in the world, if there was no falling short, if there was no, like, we're not called to be perfect. We're called to be the best we can be and just long for a relationship with Christ. So I would say don't find your self-worth in how others view you, in how like you view yourself. It's like find your self-worth in how you feel like the Lord views you, which is love, grace, like redemption, any of those like adjectives that we all fill in the blank with how the Lord views us is like on your own by yourself, you're truly never going to be enough. And that is okay. Like that is normal because we have this just unending grace and love that we can just get poured into where you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to feel like you have to bottle everything up and just be this perfect cookie cutter thing, because that's never going to be you. It's never going to be me. It's never going to be anybody. But we can learn how to navigate that with just pouring into ourselves, pouring into others, pouring into spending time in the Word, and really understanding that I don't find my perfection in myself. I look to the Lord. I look to Jesus, and how just everything comes together into just this perfect mess of things. Like we are perfectly imperfect, and that is okay. Like, do I still struggle with those things from time to time? Absolutely. But now it's just a mindset switch of, okay, I'm feeling imperfect. That's true. I am imperfect, and that's okay because I'm not called to be perfect. I'm called to be a good human, to be a good friend, to be a good daughter, to be a good fill in the blank. Like as long as I am a good person and I'm filling myself up with the Word and spending time in prayer and just pouring into myself like I pour into others, then that is enough for me. And knowing that I'm not enough without the Lord, and that's okay. That's something that I've really had to like drill into my brain of, okay, you feel like you're not enough. Okay, that's true. You're not, but you are with the Lord.
Yeah.
Like you are with Jesus and everything like that. So I think that's what I'd say.
I love that. Meghan, This has been awesome. I really love this. I think this is going to be so good for some very specific people that are going to be able to absorb that and go, like, this is exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
course.
coming on, being vulnerable, sharing all of that story,
Yeah.
and telling everybody, and especially that last bit of, being a little bit more practical advice on what to do with that. But this has been awesome. You did great, so I appreciate it.
Right.
Anything else you want to bring up in closing?
I mean, like what?
I don't know. It's an open floor. You're like, hey, we're gonna talk about the Jets today or something. I don't know what you like.
Right. I think I would just say throughout my life, I've learned that, like, yes, I learned what I just said, the advice I just gave. But something else that has really hit home for me the past year is that you have to pour into community just as much as you pour into yourself. You have to, you're gonna get burnt out if you don't let others pour into you as well. Like you can't always be the person that says yes to everything.
Absolutely.
And you can't just give and give and give and serve and serve and serve. Like you have to let your yes be your yes and your no be your no.
And use both of those.
And
yes and no.
And use both of those. So yeah, like I would just say anybody in my shoes of graduating college, first job, finding your people is that don't try to be Superman or Superwoman. Like let others pour into you just as much as you're pouring into other people.
Humility.
Humility, yeah. Because I think all my friends view me and like just people in my life view me as like they're nurturer, the caretaker. Like I pour into others, I take care of others. But if there's one thing that I want people to take from my experiences is that you don't have to do everything alone. Like you don't. It's not feasible and it's not sustainable to just to keep going and keep acting like everything's fine and just ignoring the fact that like you're not okay. Like it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to let people pour into you.
And in fact, it's good.
It's good. It's good. So yeah, I would just say that's my last piece of advice is just
Awesome.
let others pour into you as much as you pour into others.
I love it. Well, Meghan, any socials, anything you want to drop?
I
Put in there. You're like, follow me here.
I mean, I have Instagram and yeah, I think it's Meghan L. Scott _.
I'll find it. I'll put it in the
find it and put
description.
it.
We'll be good. But this
You
is
just-
awesome. Great
yes,
job.
Of course.
So much fun. Thank you guys so much for
Yeah.
watching.